it's a clear predictor of whether you will become a successful entrepreneur if you have that confidence.
Today, we're addressing a crucial component on the path to entrepreneurial success, and that is confidence. For many, the lack of it is a significant barrier to pursuing their dreams. So, Lewis, why do you think confidence plays such a pivotal role for aspiring business owners?
Well, it's the bedrock, isn't it? It's the it's the foundation. I guess it's the fuel that powers the decision making and the action. Without it, it just remains ideas. You can have the best ideas in the world, but without confidence to actually execute them with conviction, they just remain exactly that, ideas. So I think of it like the spark plug in a car, in an engine, right? Without it, the engine could be pristine. It could be the perfect car engine, like ready to go, ready to roar, and in a race car, but it's not going to start unless you have the spark plug, right? Or if you've got an electric car, maybe the analogy is better on that front. It's like the power to the battery of the electric car. The car could be perfectly set up, it's clean, it's ready to go, it's brand new, but it's got a flat battery, it's got no power. You have no confidence, you can't execute anything. And I think you could have the best business setup in the world, all the right systems, all the right software, you know how to code, like everything's set up, you're a pro, you've done so much research, but you're just not confident in your own abilities. Therefore, you're not going to execute it or act with enough conviction to see it through. The other thing is, according to a study by Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, confidence levels can significantly predict entrepreneurial activity. So it's a clear predictor of whether you will become a successful entrepreneur if you have that confidence. Now, I think that building confidence comes through repetitions. It comes through gaining knowledge, and it comes through trial and error. If you've got a falsely inflated confidence to start with, that can become a dangerous thing, because ignorance isn't necessarily bliss when it comes to creating an e-commerce business. But just like in the gym, if you're going to go there and train every day, you come in feeling more confident to take on maybe higher weights, or to increase the load that you lift. And so it's the same with like the muscle of entrepreneurship. If the deeper your knowledge becomes, the more prepared you are, the more failures you've encountered and overcome, the easier it is for you to be confident the next time around. And yeah, it's exactly the same with entrepreneurship. We see it time and time again. It's training that muscle.
It is, and it comes from taking action. And it's like the car analogy that you're using. It's such a waste of potential if you don't have that missing piece that gets the car into action. And with entrepreneurship, if you don't have that confidence, you have all this wasted potential and you don't take action on that to become an entrepreneur. I think there's a real feeling of not being qualified. I know I had that before I started, and it just holds you back. And you have to give yourself that confidence, have to give yourself that permission that you are qualified to start, because no one's qualified initially. Really, you just have to give yourself that confidence to get you over the edge, have that activation energy that you need to get started. So lack of confidence, I think it's fair to say it is a big obstacle, and it does seem like many people suffer with it, and it holds them back from getting started with an entrepreneurial pursuit. So let's go through some steps now. How can our listeners begin to overcome this hurdle?
Yeah, well, I've boiled it down into probably 4 steps really to build confidence, enough confidence to get you up and running with your first business. Now, the first step that I had to take, and this is my opinion, as to there are probably other ways of doing this, but the first thing I did was I had to just change my inputs. If I look back at what the biggest needle movers were, what the biggest actions were that took me from 9-to-5 employee who'd never really considered becoming an entrepreneur through to full-time business owner of multiple businesses, the first change that I made was the inputs into my mind. The default inputs of most people now in society who aren't entrepreneurs like us, like those listening to us, it's just to allow their minds to be fed a constant stream of consumer marketing, whether it's adverts on TV or billboards or magazines or whatever, then sensationalized news. So you turn on the evening news and it's full of fear and uncertainty and, all kinds of drama. And then the political propaganda and the arguments and the kind of the back and forth nonsense that fills the media and the news. And it's designed effectively to catch attention, because obviously the more attention they get, the more money they get. That the system is kind of rigged so that the people doing this are not necessarily doing it maliciously with intent. They're doing it because to succeed at their job, they need to get more eyeballs on the content. But the byproduct of that is that it's designed to make people feel inadequate. The marketers using billboards and using TV ads want to make us feel like we need their products to achieve a certain status. And so you end up with this underlying feeling of inadequacy and being like, my life's not going to be good enough unless I get that car, or unless I go on that holiday, or unless I buy that new phone or whatever. And there's the other side of things, which is kind of from the news as well. There's the fear. It's, if we're scared, then we won't step out of our lane and we'll just be good 9-to-5 employees and, keep doing what we're supposed to do and not question the system that we're in. And then there's anger as well. It's that, a lot of this content is created to be quite divisive. It almost turns us on each other, designed to make us argue and blame each other and point the finger and say, well, you're, doing this, or you're taking our jobs, or like this kind of, it takes the focus off really you being able to control your own destiny and your own future by just instead pointing the finger and blaming someone else for the situation you're in. So if you can change what you're feeding your mind, you'll start to notice all of these feelings dissipate, which is amazing. If you change what goes in, it's like the quality of seeds that you plant in the soil in your garden. It's going to determine the beauty and the health of the garden that grows there eventually. It's the same with your thoughts and ideas that will grow out of your mind if you're planting the right seeds in your mind. Now, this is a big part of our program, but we'll dive into it a little bit here. I mean, if you neglect this part, if you don't sow the right seeds, what are you going to get in your garden? It's going to be like weeds growing everywhere and it will look really messy. Well, it's the same in our minds. Most people's minds, outside of the listenership of our community, because I think everybody listening to this probably takes their own development more seriously than the average member of society. But most people out there's minds are just a mess. They're filled with this, like, they go from one crisis to another, one piece of fear, then they feel inadequate, then they're just scrolling on social media for hours. And they kind of let social media just take the reins on their day because it just feeds them a steady feed of dopamine drips and plays with their emotions and toys with them and gamifies the process of attention, keeps them in that app, because obviously they get marketing spent for every time you go in the app. So if you can cultivate your mind instead with positive and educational content, just watch what happens. If you do that for 30 days and you stop watching the news from today, you delete the news apps from your phone and the social media apps, and you just absorb educational content, self-development books, podcasts, just watch what happens to your thoughts and the way your mind works. Watch as the amazing ideas start to grow and your confidence in yourself starts to build.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think our minds are like sponges and they will absorb whatever inputs we decide to put into it. And that is the key point, really, is that we can decide what inputs we put into our minds. And if we accept that our minds are open for brainwashing in a way, depending on the different inputs that you choose to feed to it, then wouldn't you rather choose to expose yourself to inputs that will make you feel more confident?
Absolutely, yeah. If I'm going to be brainwashed either way, if my mind's going to be manipulated, I'd rather it be manipulated by me and the inputs that I decide go into it, because then I can do it for my own benefit. I can control the positive thoughts and the rise in confidence and self-esteem that comes as a result of that. So if your mind is going to be impacted either way, we're all fallible to impressions from outside sources. So choose what those sources are, choose what those inputs are. But this is an ongoing process. It's not something that you do once and then forever you're a confident entrepreneur that only thinks positive thoughts. Like, of course, you're going to have ups and downs. When I initially first stopped watching the news, I remember it was weird. Like I just thought, it was after reading the 4-Hour Workweek book by Tim Ferriss, and I just deleted all of the Sky News, the BBC News. It got rid of all those apps off my phone, got rid of Facebook, got rid of Instagram, got rid of Twitter, LinkedIn, like everything that was sucking up my time. Every time I went down a scroll hole, you go into these like scrolls and you're just like, suddenly an hour's gone by and you're like, where did that go? That's the algorithm taking over your mind, taking the reins. So if you can catch where those apps are sapping your time, and now they have the thing where you can check your screen time by app, can't you? And you can categorize it and be like, look how much time I wasted this week on that specific app. Get rid of it and just watch, like, be conscious what you've replaced that time with, whether it's reading, whether it's listening to podcasts. I've got some recommendations we'll go into in a moment for stuff like that. But yeah, initially it's a shock. And I think when you're deciding what to listen to and what to fill your mind with instead, if you're in a train commuting to work and you think, okay, what can I listen to? or you are maybe driving to work and you think, or you're out for a walk, start listening to an audiobook or a podcast or something from someone who is already where you want to be in life. Like, look at people's businesses, look at people's lives, who's happy, who seems fulfilled, who do you aspire to be like at this stage? I'm not saying that they become your only role model forever, but like, who's a step further down the path where you want to go? Immerse yourself in their language, listen to their content. Like, before you know it, you'll start to adopt their way of thinking, and your thought patterns will start to mirror theirs. And before long, it will rub off on you, and you'll start to think and act differently yourself. You start to become and embody the character that you now believe you deserve to be. It's difficult to explain, but if you can surround yourself with positivity and knowledge by consuming content that uplifts you and educates you, and success stories and things that you aspire to be like, the quality inputs equal quality outputs. Maybe you don't yet know what type of content you resonate with. Maybe you think, all self-development stuff is like woo-woo and, that's not for me. Well, there's a really good podcast for this on Spotify or other podcast apps that I saw. It's called Motivate, MOTIV, and then the number 8. And I think it's really literally just made by one guy. I don't think it's not like a high production thing. It's not some huge company that make it. I'm pretty sure it's very, very kind of like just thrown together. But it's like a motivation and inspiration podcast. But the nice thing about it is he takes clips from, like, he kind of intros the content, and then he takes clips from all of the best leaders, inspirational speakers, thinkers, like self-development experts, and he puts them into these short clips, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 35 minutes. So if I'm on a car journey and I have a choice of either listening to the bad news for the day and fill my mind with fear and uncertainty, or instead listen to something like that and train it to become better with positive thoughts and things that will help me grow and become a better version of myself, I know which one I'm going to choose. And the nice thing about that is it's like a taster menu. You go to a restaurant and they say, we don't know what you want to have. Okay, here's a platter of like lots of little bits, and you can try them. And when you find one that you resonate with and you think, wow, that person really struck a chord with me and that hits home, go and find more of their content, listen to their books, buy their books, read them, listen to their podcasts, watch their videos. And I think that's a great entry point into learning what inputs work for you.
Yeah, and I was amazed at the outputs that started to come out after you change the inputs. It really does make a difference to the thoughts you have. And of course, the thoughts lead to the actions you take, and the actions you take leads to the life that you live. And it was similar for me, Lewis. I first found out about it. You hear this phrase about a low information diet that's referred to in the 4-hour work week. So straight away, I was hooked on that diet, and it wasn't something that was a chore for me. It was nice to know that I had control over where I put my time, and deleting apps and reducing screen time. It was a liberating feeling for me. And suddenly I had this space in my mind that was filled before, and I could fill that then with podcasts and books that I wanted to read, that I wanted to fill my mind. I think it's interesting you've noted it in this order. You have to make space first, I think, before you can then choose which inputs you can put back in. You can't just keep adding to what you're giving yourself, or you'll be overrun. You have to take away first, and then you can add in the inputs that you want to go with.